spoiled, lazy, entitled, self-centered. That's what the millennial generation has been stereotyped as. That's what I've been stereotyped as. Because I'm a millennial. People judge us before they even get to know us. But what prior generations fail to realize is that by the time they finish judging us, we've already scrolled through the news, confirmed our meetings via text, emailed a memo to our colleagues, and scheduled dinner plans with our friends in our group chats. Our ability to utilize technology to create, communicate, and learn allows us to improve and ultimately succeed in countless careers and arenas of life difficult to achieve by prior generations. As the so-called age of technology evolves at an aggressive rate, so does the millennial generation's adaptation to that technology. Ultimately, this ability to adapt leads to our exponential growth of information gathering, execution of daily tasks, and accumulation of social capital. Simply put, those most willing to embrace technology and social media will reap its far-reaching benefits. And those who reject this new way of life will find themselves struggling to keep up. What used to take days and weeks to accomplish now takes mere minutes and hours for us. This is what I call the Millennial Advantage. Decades ago, you had the baby boomers and Gen Xers. Now, you have us millennials. Each one of these groups were labeled as those kids, each uniquely stereotyped and generalized similarly to what we hear today. Those kids in the generations before us, however, have become our community leaders, our entrepreneurs, our politicians. They've become our doctors and our lawyers, our teachers and our nurses. Ironically, though, those kids that were labeled back then are now labeling us. History has a funny way of repeating itself. But just like these prior generations, we are growing and learning with the tools available to us. The baby boomers and Gen Xers grew up in a time when technology is rapidly developing. You had 8-tracks, cassette tapes, Atari, mobile phones literally the size of my shoe. However, we millennials grew up in the golden age of digital technology, the World Wide Web, and e-commerce. The technology that we have evolved with has allowed us to develop, learn, and connect with the world at a far greater pace with a far greater reach that eclipses the capabilities of any prior generation. Think about it. I can email one letter to 1,000 people like that. I could FaceTime with you at an event or concert from halfway around the world. To see what's happening in the news, rather than turning on the TV or turning up the radio, I'll just go on Twitter and see what's happening in real time, witnessing firsthand the events as they develop on scene. This level of hyper-local access in mere seconds allows us to reach and interact faster than ever imaginable. I could watch videos on YouTube or Instagram made by billionaires themselves who could teach me little tips and tricks, tell me their stories of successes and failures. Rather than going to a book signing and meet an author, I'll just send them a tweet and order my signed copy on an app. The Millennial Advantage provides infinite access to information and innovative technologies. It enables us to succeed at earlier stages in our lives. I mean, look at some of the youngest self-made billionaires in the world right now. Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. Systrom and Krieger created Instagram. Spiegel co-founded Snapchat. Chesky created Airbnb. All millennials, all overwhelmingly successful before their mid-30s. So I decided to utilize my generational advantage in politics in 2018 when I took a shot to run for the New York State Assembly and represent my hometown on the South Shore of Long Island. Open up your life to public scrutiny, raising tens of thousands of dollars, if not way more, to finance a campaign, and taking positions that you know will upset some of your neighbors is 100% petrifying to anybody. I was up against a well-financed incumbent during a time when Republicans were thought to struggle nationally. But politics is dirty at any level. So I rolled up my sleeves and developed a platform using a variety of mediums. I watched policy speeches on YouTube made by prior New York State governors and U.S. presidents. I listened to economic lectures on podcasts, and I read books, articles, and research, all published on state policy. Everything was current. Everything I needed was right at my fingertips. One of the keys to campaigning is to be everywhere without actually being everywhere. And with the advantages of social media, I honed in on these platforms, growing my Facebook page, for example, through engaging and provocative content to achieve thousands of page likes, consistently asking the public for feedback, while understanding and recognizing that these invaluable comments, questions, and concerns would be accessible anywhere I went. While 20th century political figures literally hand-wrote letters at stationary brick-and-mortar offices, I was able to interact with voters on the go 24 hours a day. I used online advertising and an engaging campaign website, exploring every possible avenue of communication I had to proliferate my message. I even shot a sweet campaign commercial using drone technology and the highest quality level of production equipment that was viewed thousands and thousands of times at absolutely minimal cost to me on social media. When prior generations of politicians held press conferences, they literally faxed the news stations information days and days and days beforehand, praying that reporters would show up. Now, I had reporters' names, numbers, and emails in my iPhone accessible in seconds. But, don't get me wrong, I still pray that they showed up. Even our door knocking efforts were aided by technology. We collected people's reactions, both positive and negative, to determine whether or not they supported me, my opponent, or needed further engagement. Instead of shuffling through thousands of papers, I was able to search or categorize this information instantly with the use of online databanks. You see, in politics, time is of the essence. And the quicker that I could search and categorize and access this information and connect with the people was of preeminent importance and a huge factor if I was going to win this race. When a supporter wanted a lawn sign, they commented on my Facebook. When a voter wanted to know my stance on a particular issue, they messaged me on Instagram. When someone wanted to donate to my campaign, they pulled up my website. And when I had a compelling message that I wanted to get out to the voters, I boosted it online. And by the time I woke up the next day, thousands of people had already viewed it. Teddy Roosevelt, chugging his presidential campaign across the country by locomotive, would never have dreamed of these kinds of advantages. By the end of the campaign, I knocked on 20,000 doors. I raised tens of thousands of dollars. I reached hundreds of thousands of voters through online advertising and social media, and connected with the people through phone calls, text messages, emails, and television. But nevertheless, I'm still human. And few people running for office ever feel solid on election night, and I was definitely no exception. I was just an average Mike, running my first campaign with no political connections or a wealthy family. I was outspent over 4-1 against an incumbent whose party was sure to triumph in the general election. Well, despite these towering odds, I won. Now I'm New York State Assemblyman Mike, becoming one of the youngest state legislators in the country, due in large part to my generational advantage and just straight up blood, sweat, and tears. Energetic, industrious, thoughtful, resourceful. That's what the millennial generation is. We're willing to exceed the boundaries established by those before us in order to propel ourselves into the future. Now, I look forward to seeing what the next generation has in store. But until then, I'm just going to keep being exactly what I am. A proud millennial. Thank you.